Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Grade Up. Today, it is my privilege and my honor to welcome Manav, who has scored fantastic marks in his CLAT examination, which was held in 2020. Although CLAT did suffer a lot of postponement this year, today we have with us someone who cracked this difficult examination. His rank was 69th in the All India ranking. So I welcome Manav. A very, very warm welcome to you, Manav.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, Manav, since you have cracked CLAT this year and your score speaks a lot more than what you can definitely say, because words can speak lesser than your action. Action speaks much more than your words. So your action did speak a lot by cracking this difficult examination. Now, Manav, there are some questions that I would want to ask you. In case you want to say something, you are most welcome to say so, but I have certain questions to ask from you to you. And many congratulations, many congratulations. I'm sure that your parents and your family members are very happy that you scored such great marks and your ranking came and especially during such a time of duress where people are not only sad, but I think you brought a lot of happiness in your family by getting this kind of a ranking. I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
So how is your father and your mother saying? What did they say?
They were pretty happy with what I've done, because they were happy that I had achieved what I had worked for. So they were satisfied, because not only did I do well in CLAT, I also did get into NLU Delhi. I had gotten a rank of 32 in the ALET exam also. So they were pretty happy that all this hard work of the past 2 years had paid off and then nothing had gone in vain.
Fantastic. So the hard work definitely has paid Manav by getting him through one of the topmost law schools of the country. So he has a chance of getting through NLSIU Bangalore. He also has a chance of getting through Nalsar, Hyderabad. Now, both these are the top 2 law colleges of the country. So, Manav, if you are offered NLS Bangalore, I'm sure that you are from Hyderabad, but will you go and join NLS Bangalore or will you join Nalsar, Hyderabad?
Sir, so this was the exact dilemma that I faced once I saw the results, because when I wrote the exam, I was hoping for getting into Nalsar only, because I didn't have many hopes from NLS, because I didn't know if I had done that well. But then when I saw my rank, it seemed like I had a shot at NLS too. But then through this last one and a half year, my dream has always been Nalsar. So the thought of NLS being the dream college that I want to go to was not that prominent. So when I saw the result also, it was not the excitement of getting into NLS. The first thought was whether jana hai ki nahi jana hai. That was the dilemma that I was facing. So then after talking to a couple of seniors at Nalsar, talking to my friends, talking to people, so it was basically a conflict between what the heart was saying and what the brain was saying. The brain was saying that NLS jao because it's the number one university for a reason. But then the heart was like, it follow what you had worked for, because all this while I had worked for Nalsar. So if I had wished for something all this while and you give me something else at the end, I don't know how to accept it, even though it might be better. So to answer your question, no, I won't be joining NLS. I'll be joining Nalsar if when I'm shortlisted in the list that comes out tomorrow.
Okay, fantastic. So here is a guy who will go with his heart, not with his brain. Fantastic. Of course, those are some of the things that I'm going to ask him in the course of this session. So Manav, I am going to ask you some very important or something related to you. Why did you choose law as a career? And when did you start preparing for CLAT ALET and other loads of examination. So why did you choose law as a career?
So thing is, first I joined the science stream because I wasn't really interested in going into the commerce or humanities stream. So as when I joined 11th, I just chose science stream as a security like everyone does. So once, and then I had even attended the engineering JE exam coachings for around like 6 months in the starting. After a point, it felt pointless because I didn't know if I actually wanted to do engineering. So then when I had gone to a couple of career counseling sessions and many coachings that come and talk to us about law as a career. So then that drove me because like when my friends, I had a couple of friends who were already preparing for CLAT back in 11th grade itself. So then when I used to sit and solve questions with them, I felt interested in what I was actually doing. I felt I was happier doing things like logical reasoning and legal reasoning instead of doing things like physics or chemistry, which will be the core subjects of exams like JEE. So then I think in the December of 2018, I decided I'll make a shift in the career choice, and then I started coaching during the Jan of 2019, sir. Then I started preparation, and almost, if you consider the postmortem, it has almost been a preparation of 2 years.
Okay. So you started your preparation, and your preparation did last for the last 2 years, although in between you did start preparing for your JEE exam or some other entrance examination, but you did stick to law from the very beginning. Okay, that's great. So how was your preparation strategy like, and how did you prepare these different subjects like maths, like logical reasoning, like critical reasoning, like English, like legal reasoning? So there are 5 different subjects which you are generally quizzed in this particular examination. So what was your strategy like insofar as these different subjects are concerned?
So the thing was that when I started preparing, it was the old pattern CLAT that was there. So then during that time I was doing what everyone was doing, like solving questions from R.S. Agarwal. And then coming from a maths background, I didn't need extensive prep during math, but I just focused on topics like time and work, profit and loss, things like compound interest and simple interest, which can be topics where you can ask some tougher questions. But then when the pattern changed, everyone was confused because we didn't know what to refer from or what to even do. So the thing I did if I go section by section, if I start with English was basic like comprehension skills that they were testing. So it was just that you needed to have speed, you needed to have a good reading speed. And then next thing is vocabulary. Vocabulary could be enhanced by reading basic newspapers, articles on a daily basis, which I had done consistently for the last 2 years. And then when you come to GK was actually the most painful section to prepare for the past 2 years, because considering that CLAT was supposed to be held in May, we were only supposed to prepare until like April at max. But then it got extended by around 5 months. So we had to do extra 5 months of effort for the single exam. But in the exam, it turned out that not many topics were asked from the current, like exact current scenario, but they were asked from a general basis. So then it was one of the most painful sections which every aspirant would agree to, because no amount of prep can prepare you for the GK section. And then the GK section of CLAT 2020 came as a shock to, I think, majority of the aspirants, because I think I scored around 22 or 23 marks in the GK section out of 36. So it was not something that anyone could have been well prepared for. It was just like a hit and miss section. So I think maybe next year the GK section would be a much better section, because I feel that what preparation I had did, nothing had paid off in the end for the GK section at least, because I'd done so much. Most of my friends had put in so much effort, but turned out that they asked something else which I had not prepared for at all. So it came as a shock. So it kind of ruined the flow that we had written the exam with, which explains our scores which have come down. So then when I go to math, Math was basically they had basically like general math. They didn't focus much on the confusing topics like time and work and simple interest and compound interest. They focused more on linear algebra, data interpretation, which were simpler topics which we had prepared for using the coaching material, using test series and majority of the practice sheets given to us. Then when you come to logical reasoning I had referred to a lot of GMAT resources, which made you think a lot and then gives you a different perspective on each and every question. And then for AR, we didn't have to put much prep because we were anyway preparing for the other exams. So this was a given. And then critical reasoning using the paragraphs is an easy topic, but if you overthink questions, then it will become the hardest section for anyone who attempts it, because the options are worded in such a way that usually it will be an answer which will mostly be direct. But then if you start overthinking, then it can lead to negative marking, which you have to avoid at all costs. Because negative marking, once it piles up, then your score will come down by a huge number of ranks. And considering the competition that CLAT had this year, I've seen like 50 people in one score. So considering competition, it's best to avoid questions that you think are a little bit confusing, instead of just attempting it and then getting a negative marking. And then coming to the last section, which is the legal aptitude. Legal aptitude required like a lot of general awareness. Like you needed to have read the current articles, like from Live Law, like from Print, like from The Wire. Things like they were directly picking up articles from news resources and then asking you questions based on them. Even in the sample papers or even in the real CLAT paper, they directly picked up questions from the news articles and asked principles and questions. So what CLAT has really tested is how much people actually are aware of their surroundings. So when you actually start reading all these news resources, it will help you in the end. But if you look at it in the short term and like what will happen if I read this, it won't make sense. But if you look at the long-term perspective and read all these type of articles, it will really help you as the legal aptitude section. Though though obviously you cannot score the full marks, you'll be able to reduce the amount of silly mistakes that you're making in these type of questions.
So what I understand, Manav, that from this year, that is from CLAT 2020, general awareness and legal reasoning, there is a lot of similarity.
Yes, sir.
For both legal reasoning as well as general knowledge, you have to know about what is happening in your surroundings. You cannot say that I am just going to prepare legal reasoning without knowing what is happening in and around. No, you cannot do that. Because so there has been a little overlapping between these two important topics, which of course is 50% of the weightage of the entire chunk. I understand that. So my next question to you is, what was your strongest area and where did you feel that it was your weakest area?
So I would say that my strongest area was probably GK, because considering the amount of effort that I put in, even in the mock scores that I put in, I was averaging around 30-31 marks even in the mocks. But then when it came to the CLAT, I bombed, but that's a different case. Thing was that I felt that GK was my strongest section because I was able to retain most of the information that I had researched for, gone through the articles for. As considering the weakest section, I would say it was legal aptitude, because what used to happen was that I used to overthink the options. So what was the answer right before me, I never used to choose that. I used to choose some other option, thinking of some other logic, which led to a lot of negative marking in the mocks. Thankfully, it didn't happen in the CLAT examination, but then the most difficult section was a legal aptitude for sure, without a doubt. Because of the main point that I never used to stick to the passage and answer it based on that logic. I used to apply some other type of logic. I used to overthink questions, and then it used to lead to a lot of wrong answers, which I learned through the course of the writing many mocks and many practice sheets.
Okay. So what was your strategy like just before 2 weeks or 3 weeks just before that? What was your strategy for sitting for this examination? Keeping in mind that this year CLAT examination was postponed for a number of times, at least 4 to 5 times, if I remember correctly. 4 to 5 times it got postponed, and again there was an NLAT which was scrapped by the Supreme Court. So I can understand that this year's students did have a lot of confusion about CLAT and all these examinations because there was no certainty in the air. So my question is, what was your strategy like in the last 2 weeks or in the last 3 weeks?
So the thing was that before all this 2 weeks before that, I used to study for during the months of like July. I think until July, I was averaging around 10 hours a day studying for CLAT. But then due to the continuous postponements that happened post that, the productivity took a literally too big of a hit. I wasn't able to concentrate for more than, let's say, 5 hours. 5 hours at best I was able to do, because literally there felt like there was no hope at all. Like if you're cancelling, if you're continuously, I don't blame anyone for it, but if the continuous postponement that takes place, it takes too much of a toll on the mind, because when the exam was scheduled for the 22nd of August, we were like ready. I won't say the best, well prepared, but we were ready for it. But then when the postponement news came, I remember taking the entire week off because I literally didn't want to study anymore. Only after these kind of postponements, like my friends and I had this very funny thing where whenever a postponement notice used to come, we used to take the entire next week, because usually it used to come on the weekend. So next 4 days we used to have a long weekend and just have fun, because it didn't make sense to study after a postponement, because the mind doesn't have any energy to do it. So then when finally CLAT was confirmed on the 28th of September, so we were finally like, okay, now the exam is at least scheduled, it won't be postponed for sure, because even JEE and NEET had happened before that. So we knew that for sure nothing will be cancelled. So then last 2 weeks, if I say, we were only concentrating on writing mocks and doing GK.
Okay.
Only writing mocks. So each day we used to study for around like 6 hours, 7 hours. Out of them, 5 hours we used to devote to only GK revision, finding new topics to research from, and then finding new points, and then writing 1 mock a day or even maybe 2. So that was the entire strategy for most of the aspirants. I think I concur that GK was the most important factor that to concentrate on in the last 2 weeks, because considering it was an online exam, they could ask questions from 2 days before, they could ask questions from even 1 week before. So we had to continuously do GK until the day of the exam. I think I stopped doing GK on the 27th of September. 28th of September, I just didn't do anything. So until the last 2 weeks, the only strategy was write mocks, analyze them, and then continuously revise GK, find new points to revise, and then relax. Because I don't see any point studying for 10 hours 1 week before the exam, because if you had prepared so well, it doesn't make sense if you want to push yourself even further. Because I want to be ready for the D-Day, because I don't want to have mental fatigue or something while writing the exam.
So this brings me to the next question. How important is mock test, regular practice of question papers in the last 1 year, as well as your solving the previous year's question paper? Because CLAT, I know that the pattern of CLAT has absolutely changed. What kind of questions used to come in legal reasoning, those typical principle, fact-based question, has become obsolete today. Today we are faced with passage-based question. You will be getting a passage and you have to understand those passage. Now, don't you think that today the CLAT is more about the knowledge of English? Don't you think that today's CLAT is more about how well you understand the language English? And don't you think that it is a barrier on people who are from, suppose, some other mediums, not from English medium? Because to become lawyers, you don't really need to become a great orator in English. You can become a great lawyer without having knowledge of English also in various other countries. Does it mean that in France you don't get lawyers? Is it definitely mandatory that English is a must to become a lawyer in the world? No. In United Nations, you don't require English as a mandatory language. So, what do you think? My question would be to you precisely, how do you think that mock test helps you, previous year's question paper helped you, as well as your practice of various question papers, how did those things help?
Okay, so starting with the mock test. So I think I'd enrolled with. I'm primarily I'm a student of another institute, but then I had enrolled for test series of many institutes just to see what kind of questions each and every institute can offer me. So then I had enrolled for a grade up test series. I had enrolled for many other coaching test series also. So what happened was I had given around I think 80 to 90 CL mocks at the least. CLAT mocks at the least I had given at least 80 to 90, and then I think that's a fair, reasonable number. I think many people would have given less, and many people would have even given more. So then my number would be around 80 to 90 mocks that I had given through the course of this last one and a half year. So mock tests, what happens is, when you get a mock every week, you get an incentive to prepare even more, because knowing that a mock is scheduled in 5 days, and if you score less, it is on you that you haven't prepared for the last 5 to 6 days that were given to you. So whenever a mock is scheduled for the next 7 days, let's say, what I would do is revise the GK of the last week, or revise more GK, practice a few math questions or something like that. So then it would at least exercise my mind, so that on the day of the mock, I wouldn't be clueless about what this question is, or I didn't want to be taken by surprise. So then I used to write mocks. There was a point where I was writing around 2 to 3 mocks a day, because that point I had a lot of mocks which I hadn't given before due to boards. I had missed out on many mocks because of boards. So then I had to catch up on those mocks. So I was writing a lot of mocks. So then what happens during mocks is it activates your brain. So then what happens is you're continuously focused, because CLAT exam involves too much of reading. So then your mind needs to be focused for the entirety of 2 hours. So mocks help. So what happened was, before CLAT had changed to online, we were reading on paper. So that requires a different amount of concentration. And when they suddenly changed it to online, I wasn't able to concentrate on the screen for more than an hour or so. My mock scores took a huge dip because of those. So then what happens is, when you continuously write mocks, you get used to first of all the interface, and then you get used to reading and looking at a screen for so long, because looking at a screen continuously for 2 hours while maintaining focus is not easy for everyone at the start. It takes a lot of practice to get used to it. So mocks help you to stay focused, and then they help you to, and then also mocks, when I write mocks, GK section was the most important section, because we used to prepare our own topics, information, but then in a mock they used to ask us new topics, which gives you an incentive to prepare even more, because there is something that you always don't know. So mocks help me in a way to explore new topics and get more information, and then research a little bit more. And then solving last year papers. Previous year papers I don't think will help you much in this CLAT currently, because maybe math may help you because of the variety of topics that were asked in the previous pattern of CLAT, but I don't think solving papers very seriously of the past years will help you in any way, because the previous year papers were not at all passage based, and they were usually, like you said, principal fact based questions, more concentration on grammar and stuff like that. So I don't think it's of any point solving the previous year papers, because I hadn't solved any of them. Maybe when I was preparing for the old pattern CLAT, yes, I had solved the previous year papers, but then when it changed, I saw no point in doing those. And then coming to your question about the English part of CLAT, yes, I will definitely agree that it has concentrated on the CLAT is basically concentrated on the people who are very fluent in English, who can understand the comprehension level in the passage, because the passages are not of the very easy level or even moderate. They require some kind of context and understanding to it. So yes, it has been constant. There is a divide between the people who are fluent in English and not fluent in English. That is obviously because in India at least, English has been the lingua franca. So English has been used all across the law education, and then even in higher studies. The thing is, English has just not proliferated through the lower strata of the society, so it doesn't allow them to come and give the CLAT examination, because when you are not so fluent in English and even reading, so I don't think they'll be at an advantage compared to us, because we are definitely at an advantage compared to people who are not fluent in English. So I think it has definitely maybe deepened the divide between the people who are fluent and not fluent in English. But then through the course of years, when English disseminates even more widely, then CLAT examination will become a more equitable examination than considered now.
Okay, fantastic. So I understand that this year the preparation for CLAT was very different from the previous year's CLAT preparation, because the pattern itself has changed, and you got the notification, I think, in the month of November or December last year, or January this year itself. So you guys had a shock of your life when you came to know that the entire pattern of CLAT changed, and it was just a one-pager notification from the consortium stating that from this year we are going to ask passage-based question, and you guys might not have any idea of what would be a passage-based question in general knowledge, in legal reasoning, because that came, I think, as a shocker to you. And I personally think that it is for this reason that this year a lot of students could not score well in CLAT because they were preparing for the last 1.5 years or 2 years per se. They were preparing in a different model. Now, in the last minute, CLAT consortium comes out with this big shocker and says that, okay, the pattern has changed, nothing can be done, prepare for it. So your exact preparation, I think, for CLAT 2020 started from around January or February onwards.
Yes, sir.
Whatever you did in the past, in the previous 1.5 years, I don't think is of great consequence insofar as CLAT 2020 is concerned. And I really appreciate the fact that this year students had to face a lot of difficulty. I think one of the reasons is an act of God, or what is the act of nature, that is COVID-19. And because there was a lot of delay in this examination, people got frustrated. I had spoken to students who were saying that enough is enough. I don't care about COVID-19. Just get the test on the table. So I can understand, but to secure public life and safety of people at large, the consortium had to postpone. Now, they also did not do it deliberately, and it was nothing. Nobody can be blamed in a situation like this. Okay, I can understand a lot of things went wrong with the students. They felt very bad, their preparation deteriorated, but nothing can be done, Manav. It's a part of life, we have to accept it. So moving ahead with the next question. So which section of CLAT 2020 did you find to be the easiest, and which section of CLAT 2020, this year's question paper, did you find it to be on a tougher side?
Easiest section, I wouldn't say any section was easy. All sections had a combination of tough and easy questions, but I would say easier questions came from the English section. English section had a lot of like easy, understandable questions which were easy to crack. And then if you're asking about tough, then I don't think tough would be the question. Tough would be the word I would use. It was probably the toughest GK section I've ever attempted in any of the mocks that I've given. GK was by far the toughest section, and everyone would agree, because usually what I had done was GK I used to allot like 5 and 6 minutes or at max, if not 7. This time it took me 10 minutes to comprehend the entire section, because everything was statement based. There are a lot of options, and then it's not easy to eliminate options also, because the options are worded that way. So then it took me 10 minutes, so that ruined the entire flow of the examination. If GK section would have been according to the pattern we had studied, then I'm sure that most of us would have scored much better in those questions. So what happened was, GK section, usually many people start with the GK section because it gets over easily. So then I followed that strategy and started it. But then it took me a lot of time, because I was solving questions, but I didn't realize time was running. I didn't realize, so until I finished the 36 or 37 odd question, the timer had already finished. The timer was down 10 minutes already, so it came as a shock. So then I had to rush with the math section and other sections itself. This was probably because usually every mock that I've written, I've never faced a time crunch. This was the only examination that was auto-submitted for me, because by the time I had finished solving the paper, time had already run away. Time had already passed. So, and then that too, this was probably one of the only papers where I had so less attempts. I remember I had only 128 attempts in the paper. But usually in the mocks that were literally just 4 days before the exam, I was averaging almost all 150 attempts. I was averaging 145 attempts at least. But then it came as a shock that I only attempted 128. So I thought maybe I had messed up the paper. But then when I spoke to a lot of people, turns out they'd either messed up more than me, or they'd attempted more and gotten more in negative. So then that was probably, this was probably like the one of the hard mock papers that I had given. Taken it as a mock, it was one of the probably the hardest ones that I've given throughout the course of 1.5 years of preparation.
So I understand this year's GK question paper was not purely GK, it was a kind of an analysis of a particular situation. That how
Yes.
do you analyze a particular situation? I understand that CLAT is evolving. Believe me, speaking for myself, when I gave now there was no CLAT in 2006. There were various law college examination. CLAT was formed much later in 2008, I think, when our juniors came into being. So back in 2006, NLS Bangalore used to have descriptive questions. Argue for A and argue for B. I think Nalsar used to have this essay writing competition. You have to write a 250-word essay or a paragraph on a particular topic. So yes, CLAT has changed over the years, in the last 20 years, if I say so. Since 1990, CLAT has changed. I think, yes, NLS Bangalore question paper also changed, Nalsar's question paper changed, NUJ's question paper changed, GNLU's question paper changed, and when we had this consortium, yes, things changed a lot, and it is changing now. So it is something like the evolving Constitution of India. The Constitution is interpreted the way the Supreme Court feels like. Oh, okay. So moving ahead, any kind of advice that you want to give, Manav, to your following aspirants? Because a lot of aspirants are there who will be seeing you in this year ahead. So what are your advice for your fellow aspirants?
So what I would say first, and what I would say is that never ever give up. Never give up. Thing is, not only our year was a special scenario because of COVID-19, but in general, if speaking, whenever you're scoring bad in mocks or you're just not in the right mindset, just don't give up. Just keep pushing through, because at the end, I'm sure everything will pay off. Because at a point when CLAT kept postponing like 2-3 times, I had a thought of even giving up, because I didn't know, I wasn't in the right mindset or something, but because I didn't have the encouragement or the motivation to even push myself further, because the continuous because I used to put in so much effort, and then used to say postponed even further. So I literally didn't have any motivation to push myself further. But then what I've learned through this course of like 8 months of this 8 or 9 months is that never give up first itself. Just keep pushing through. It will pay off in the end. You have to keep putting consistent effort. Second thing is, I would say, when you're enrolled in an institute, don't only use mock papers of that institute. Get mock papers of all other institutes also to get a variety. So I had discovered I had come to Grade Up, like I think I bought Grade Up like a few months back. Then I had given the All India Open mock. I had given a couple of months back. I had given the All India Open mock, and then I had scored really well. And I liked the mock because those type of questions I had never seen. And I would specifically say, not because I'm on the Grade Up channel for now, I would just say specifically because the type of questions that are asked in the Grade Up mocks were kind of similar, because Grade Up used to give a lot of like statement analysis based questions in GK. So those type of option combination based questions were asked in CLAT also. So that really helped me at least to know that these type of questions also can be asked, because in other mocks they were usually single word or else few statement based. But the kind of analysis questions, like I remember in some Grade Up mocks they used to ask, why did this happen? Why is it like this? So I remember that these type of questions also can be asked. So it's nice to always have a variety of questions at your hand, so that you can you're well prepared, so that nothing comes as a shock for you at the end of the day. Sure, we had the shock of our life when we saw the GK section or something, but then at least you can mitigate the shock. If not, you cannot completely stop it, but you can at least mitigate the entire thing. Then I would say that always have a kind of like study group, I would say, because I don't think if you're preparing for the 1.5 years or 2 years, I don't think you can do it alone. Nobody will be able to do it alone. So I had a friend of mine, so we used to prepare together, like share material. We were in the same institute, but we used to share material, share questions, do quizzes, and then and even compare marks and then see where we went wrong. So then also I would like to also very big caution over here is, don't ever take competition in a negative way. Like when I used to prepare with my friend, she used to score more than me in most of the mocks, but I never saw it as a way of jealousy, that why is she getting and I'm not getting. The question is, how is she able to get that many marks and how can I reach there? It should always be a positive. Sure, sometimes a feeling of jealousy can pop up, but don't let it get the best of you. So always take a competition in a positive way, because when I was preparing alone, I didn't know that there are much smarter people than me also. But then when I came into contact with these people, it gave me motivation to even prepare a bit more and get ahead of them too. So it gives a lot of incentive to have a small study group. Like I had only a study group of another friend, but if it helps to have more people, then it's fine. Just have someone of the equal brain mindset, equal preparation. Like it doesn't make sense if you're preparing with someone who's not as well prepared as you. You have to either be with someone who's more prepared than you, or at least equally well prepared as you. So these three tips I would like to give the aspirants who will be appearing for the CLAT 2021. And last but not the least is time management. When the main thing I used to tell to any person who used to get stuck on a question is, leave it. That's what I used to do. Like for example, when I used to do the legal section, I used to get stuck up on like 4 to 5 questions at least. So thing is, when you're still stuck on the question, it can go about many ways. One is you either leave it, one is you attempt it and get it right, and one is you attempt it and get it wrong. I would just leave it. I would just mark them for review and then come around later and solve it, because I had the time to do it. So what my advice would be to, when you're stuck on a question, just leave it. It's not worth it to keep getting stuck on the question, because you're losing out on another 149 questions that are there. So it doesn't make sense if you're stuck on one question and losing out. What if the other questions were scoring? If this question is hard for you, it will be hard for many others too. So that is what also I've realized. Like I would say I was well prepared. So if the question paper is hard for me, I can confidently say it is hard for majority of the people who are writing the paper. So it's good that you are leaving questions, because I can guarantee you that no one will have 150 attempts in the paper. There is no way even the CLAT consortium is going to let you have full attempts. At best, you will have 142 attempts or 144 attempts. There are 6 questions that are meant to be left. So it's best to leave those questions instead of attempting them and breaking your head over it. So it's best to manage your time and then always leave some gap time. Like when you're done with the paper, when you're done with the most number of attempts you can make sure that you have at least 5 minutes so that you can at least review some questions in it. I usually had 15 to 20 minutes in the end when I was writing mocks. So then it helps because you can go back, you can even attempt more questions, because when you're solving math, most of the times answer may not strike you during the calculation, because sometimes the calculations can get lengthy. So you can come back later, and then you have an incentive of 1 mark. Instead of getting 0, you have an incentive of 1 mark. Even 1 mark in CLAT 2020 can raise ranks like anything. Because the friend I had studied with, we had only difference of 2 marks, but the ranks were a lot of difference. So even 1 mark can make a huge difference in exam like CLAT 2020.
Yes, 0.25 marks also plays a very critical role.
When you come to the lower end of the rankings, even I've seen, like I said before, I've seen like around 60 to 70 people in the score of literally one score. So it makes a lot of difference. Even 0.25 makes a lot of difference in these type of examinations.
Yeah, I understand, Manav. What you're saying is exactly correct, and I do agree with you. So another one small question before we end, that what do you want to become after you do law? Are you interested in the corporate? Are you interested in the law firms? Are you interested with to become a lawyer or to become a judge? Why do you want to become a lawyer, or why do you want to go to a law school? That's my question.
So law school, I wanted to pursue law because it expands the horizons of knowledge, because law as a profession, law as a subject is continuously evolving. You cannot be static. Like literally one day something will be there and next day a judgment can overturn anything. So the thing is that law is always evolving. So it really need to think a lot. So critical thinking, analysis, you have to keep applying your brain in every single situation, because there'll be a law, but then the different interpretations, different applications involve a lot of thinking. So this really interested me because it helps me to I will have a different perception about a law and someone else would have. So that kind of conflict and these kind of conversations really increases your awareness, I would say. It makes me happy that at least I've learned something from some other person today. That if I would have some interpretation of any topic, but if someone else has a varied interpretation, be it completely opposite or be it concurrence, you will learn something at the end, because when law as a profession allows you to interact with a lot of people, so it allows you to gain a lot of knowledge, and it allows you to keep yourself on track. So considering the future goals, I don't think I have anything in mind as of yet. I will wait for these 5 years of law school to make me what fate has decided for me. So then I don't have any set goals in mind as of now.
Okay, fantastic. But thank you so much, Manav, that it was really nice speaking to you, and you spoke from your heart what you wanted to say. It was really nice, and many congratulations. May you shine high in the sky like those crazy diamonds shining up there in the sky. I wish you all the very best in your future endeavor, and I'm sure that your parents are very excited about you and to send you to Nalsar, Hyderabad. And Nalsar, Hyderabad, as I know, is a very good institution, has great infrastructure, has great hostels, because I have also had the opportunity of staying in those hostels for around a couple of days when I was back in those law school days, for some sports competition, for some airspace meet, whatever it is. Thank you so much, Manav. I wish you all the very best. Do well in your life, but more than that, stay home right now, stay healthy, and stay happy. Many
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You.
Thank you so much, sir.